In 1975, 3M's own scientists found something impossible sitting in vials of human blood, chemicals from their factories, in people who had never set foot near one. And for the next 23 years, the company that made Scotchgard didn't tell a single regulator. So why did it take until 1998 for the world to find out what 3M had known since the Ford administration? For most of the 20th century, 3M was the company that made stains disappear. Scotchgard on your couch, Post-it Notes on your desk, a Minnesota manufacturer with a folksy reputation and a wall of patents, selling the idea that its chemistry made everyday life a little cleaner, a little easier. Parents sprayed it on car seats. Restaurants lined wrappers with it. Nobody questioned a fabric protector. It was invisible, odorless, and as far as anyone outside the company knew, completely inert. That trust is exactly what let it travel so far for so long without a single warning label. Behind that image, 3M's chemists were tracking something else entirely. As early as the 1950s, internal researchers understood that the compound behind Scotchgard, a class of chemicals called PFAS, didn't break down. It didn't degrade in soil, in water, or in a human body. By 1975, company scientists testing blood samples from ordinary donors, people with no connection to 3M's plants, found the chemical already circulating inside them. That finding stayed inside 3M's walls. No press release, no call to the EPA, just a filed report and a product line that kept shipping. The cover didn't require a conspiracy meeting. It required silence maintained year after year by people who understood exactly what they were sitting on. Internal toxicology studies through the 70s and 80s showed the chemical building up in animal livers, crossing into blood, refusing to leave the body. Employees who worked directly with it were monitored more closely than the public ever was. Executives budgeted for compliance risk without disclosing what the risk actually was. Regulators asked general questions about fluorochemical safety and got general answers back. Nobody at the EPA had the one document that mattered, proof the company had already found its own chemical in the bloodstream of the general population. The scale of what finally surfaced is what makes this different from an ordinary corporate secret. When a 3M chemist named Chris Hansen reran blood bank testing in 1997, she didn't find contamination in a few exposed workers. She found PFAS in samples pulled from blood banks across the country, in adults who'd never touched the product, and in newborns. The chemical wasn't a workplace hazard anymore. It was a background condition of being alive in America. 3M finally alerted the EPA in 1998, and by 2000, under regulatory pressure, agreed to phase out PFAS production. But the chemicals didn't phase out of the water. They're still there. Studies would later trace PFAS contamination into drinking water systems, serving more than 200 million Americans, into livestock, into soil hundreds of miles from any factory. In 2018, 3M paid Minnesota $850 million over groundwater contamination alone. In 2023, facing thousands of lawsuits from public water utilities nationwide, the company agreed to pay up to $10.3 billion, $1 of the largest environmental settlements in U.S. history. Communities that had been drinking the water for decades didn't get an apology. They got a payout calculated by lawyers, decades after the exposure had already happened. Here's the part that should bother you more than the money. The people who found the danger early didn't get punished. They got promoted, retired, or quietly reassigned, while the product kept shipping under their names on the patent filings. No 3M executive was ever criminally charged. No one went to prison for a decision that put a permanent chemical into the bloodstream of most of the country. That's not an accident of a slow legal system. It's the system working exactly as it's built to. Corporate liability gets absorbed by the company, spread across shareholders and insurance, while the individuals who signed off on the silence walk away with their pensions intact. Regulators can only act on what they're told, and for over 2 decades, 3M made sure they weren't told anything. PFAS is largely phased out now. But 3M and its peers had already replaced it with newer fluorochemicals, Gen X, PFBS, marketed as safer, tested by the same kind of internal science that took decades to reach daylight the first time. The blood samples from 1975 are still the ones that prove the company knew before anyone else on Earth. The chemicals from that decision are still in your water table right now somewhere, doing exactly what they were engineered to do, last forever. So the real question isn't what 3M buried in 1975. It's what's sitting in a lab file right now, in a decade nobody's opened yet. That's 900 words on 3M's PFAS blood testing cover-up, 1975 discovery right arrow 1998 disclosure right arrow the 2023 $10.3 settlement. Built around the open loop callback pattern interrupt structure you specified. Let me know if you want a shorts cut down or a different accountability figure highlighted.